everyone, and welcome to Week 9 of the WNP Fantasy Football League. I'm your host and commissioner, Tony Rignola. We are now more than halfway through the season, and with just 5 weeks left in our regular season, each week's game is that much more important. So let's go ahead and see how everyone did in Week 9. In a battle for first place in the Wild Week West, it was gloom, despair, and agony with a 205-174 victory over me and my Nagintas. With the win, Don now has a 1-game lead over Josh. Josh's team played well except for tight end Kobe Fleener's 2 points, who was filling in for Jimmy Graham, who was on the bye week. As far as Don's team, his entire team balled out. Everyone except for kicker Brandon McManus scored in double figures, with Antonio Brown leading the way with 53 points. I'm being talked to in my ear, and y'all know what that means. Let's go to our on-field reporter, Why Not? Take it away, sir. This is Why Not, your on-field reporter, coming to you live from the Wooden Nickel Pub. Sitting here with Scherri McCrae, the wife of Don, who's the owner of Gloom, Despair, and Agony. Here today to ask Scherri a few questions pertaining to Don's team of this year and last year. Scherri, we all know that Don won the PD last year. Congratulations again, Don, to you. What we all would like to know is the truth behind how he won it last year.
Yeah, because of me. I picked everything for him, so you should congratulate me for picking a good team for him. Yeah.
Secret's out. So, given the fact that you helped Don run his team last year, are your hands wet in this year's team, considering Don's record is a little bit different than last year at 5-4?
You know, for just kind of letting him go on his own, kind of spread his wings a little bit, because prior years he wasn't doing so good. I think he actually got the Succo Award, maybe not.
He was close to it.
He was close to it a couple of years back. So this year I decided to just let him go on his own to see what he does. And I think he's doing okay.
It's not bad. He is still leading the West at a 5-4 in the wild worst of the West. Now, last year there was a point where Don changed his team name from Sparkle Ponies to Gloom, Despair, and Agony. Now, would you say is that around the time that you took over his team?
Pretty much, because, Sparkle Ponies, yeah, the name says it all. But Gloom, Despair fits him really, really well. Because, Don, country boy, I'm surprised he's not wearing overalls all the time.
There you have it, guys. Secrets out about last year's team with Don. Thank you so much for the time, Scherri.
Thank you.
And back to you in the studio. Thank you, Why Not? And thank you, shall I say, to last year's winning owner and general manager, Scherri McCrae? Just playing, Don. By the score of 209-131, Nickel Dickle took another one on the chin courtesy of South Park Cows. Steve-O is maintaining his spot in the playoffs for the Succo with his team's lackluster performance. Steve-O's kicker Dane Bailey's 13 points outscored 2 running backs and 2 of his flex players by the score of 13-8. Ouch! Patty's kicker didn't score any points. She didn't need any kicker points from this week versus Steve-O, with 5 players scoring 30 or more points. The Red Rocket, a.k.a. Ginger Locks, a.k.a. Andy Dalton, led the South Park Cows with 44 points. Another team that is holding on to the final playoff spot for the Succo is Smack My Bench Up, who lost to Orange Chill by the final score of 149-147 for the second time in 4 weeks, having James Starks on his bench cost Isaac the victory this week. Led by Green Bay Packers' Aaron Rodgers' 57 points and Randall Cobb's 24 points, Curtis improved his record to 4-5. This just in, we have a special report from our on-field reporter, Why Not? This is Why Not, coming to you live again from the Wooden Nickel Pub. And this time I have the pleasure of having Isaac Martin's wife, Christie. Isaac, the general manager and owner of Smack My Bench Up, is off to a 2-7 start. As many of you know, Isaac, at our draft, was drafting 2 teams there. Might not have been the smartest move. Christie was there to witness the entire thing. And just here to ask her a few questions. What do you think it was wise of Isaac to draft 2 teams at once?
Not at all. Even at the draft itself, I told him that he needed to set an alarm for when his next draft was going to start. And what did? He did not set an alarm, and he missed the start of the second draft, and then I think it ended up auto-drafting for the first couple rounds, so I tried to help him, but clearly that did not work.
It seems to believe that maybe Isaac should have auto-drafted on the Wooden Nickel Pub's draft as well.
I know, that might actually have done him some good. It seems like, sorry babe, but your record's not that great this year.
Now, with that being said, have you had your hands in any involvement in his team this year?
No, not at all. I haven't done a thing this year.
Hence his 2-7 record, probably.
Maybe so.
And so do you think that you can help Isaac in the second half of the season?
He's a little bit obsessive over his fantasy teams this year. I mean, that's all I hear about. First thing he wakes up in the morning is he's doing that fantasy research on his iPad. And the last thing he's doing before he goes to bed is doing the fantasy research on his iPad. So maybe while he's sleeping, I could sneak into his iPad and maybe do a little helping on his fantasy team, but I just need to know his password, which I don't know.
My guess is Troy Polamalu would be his password, given the Steeler fan that he is. Maybe you should try that one.
I think I'll give that a try.
Look out, Isaac. You might have help in the second half of the season. Back to you in the studio. Who drafts another team while your live, in-person draft is going on? That would be Isaac. The WNP's last place team smacked my bench up. Thank you, Why Not and Christie, for that report. Quizperny Jidunzoid Sr. beat the Mighty Crazians 164-121. For only the fourth time this season, Dean's team failed to score 200 points. On a side note, it must suck to be 7-2 and you're mad at your team this week for not scoring 200 points, but you still won. Yeah, that must really suck. I want my team to suck like that. Dean's team was led by Tom Brady's 37 points. Pete's team was led by LeGarrette Blunt's 23 points. That's funny. My pre-production meeting was led by a Blunt too. My 2-game winning streak is something of the past as Philly's Blow beat Sucko My Sacco by the score of 201-130. Brian's quarterback Drew Brees' 60 points was just 2 points shy from outscoring my top two scorers, who were Eli Manning with 30 points and Michael Crabtree with 32 points. With the win, Brian keeps pace with two other teams in the East that are 7-2. This just in, we have yet again another report from Why Not. This is Why Not coming to you live from the Wooden Nickel Pub, and I'm here with Brian's wife, Lisa. Brian, as you know, is the owner of Philly's Blow, and he is off to a 7-2 start this year, leading the league. Is doing very well. As most of you know, Brian and Lisa got married in September. In the state of North Carolina, it is law that half of what is the other's becomes hers.
Well,
do tell, Lisa.
That's not always the case in our house. I do have to say that there is a very, very fine woman running an amazingly well fantasy league.
Oh, so you mean to tell us that you have something to do with Brian's 7-2 start?
He has secretly asked for assistance in how to pick his lineup and get all of his players, and I do have to say that I have done a very, very good job getting him to a 7-2 start.
It's interesting you say, because some of us, which will remain nameless, Stephen Matthew Carver, we're thinking that Brian had to have a little bit of help considering, his good start.
My athletic background comes into play here, and I know these athletes, and I know them well, and I'm able to provide the assistance that he needs. Now, this is, I'm sorry, this is not something that he wanted disclosed, so we're going to have to kind of...
Stop recording now. It's okay, please.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But I do have to say that behind every man is an amazing woman running his fantasy league.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for the insight, and back to you in the studio, Commish. Thank you, Why Not and Lisa, for that very informative report. As we move on to Week 10 of the WNP Fantasy Football League, there are two really big matchups. Leaders of the East and the West face off against each other as Dean and Dom will play in what seems to be a pretty fair matchup on paper. With both teams sitting at 7-2, Brian and Patty will play each other, with the winner of this game having the chance to take over sole possession of first place in the East if Don is able to beat Dean. Good luck to everyone in Week 10, and thank you to our on-field reporter, Why Not, with his great interviews with Scherri, Christie, and Lisa. Thank you, ladies, for taking the time out of your day, and as always, tune in next week to find out who the winners and losers of the WNP Fantasy Football League are. See y'all next week.
Watch your eardrums pop. Watch your eardrums pop. Watch your eardrums pop. Watch it.